Hey, folks. Like I told you, I was going to bring some folks on, some of my classmates that I've had the pleasure of getting to know over the course of the year, and they're just going to share their experience learning learning Portuguese, their reasons for learning Portuguese. And if you haven't heard, we are doing our Intro to Portuguese class again starting October 5th is when everything starts. We have the intro class. We do have an intermediate class, but that's only for us who have taken the first class. So there we have it. But I want to introduce you to Miki. Hello, how are you,
Hey.
honey?
Oh, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. So tell people what made you want to start learning Portuguese in the first place?
So I'm a teacher, and I was in the public school system for a while, and I teach English as a second language. And I end up uh, coaching other teachers too, best practices for students who are learning another language in your classroom. And so to help myself stay connected to what students actually experience, I was looking to study another language that I was not familiar with at all. And also with the pandemic, I wanted to see it online and
Mm-hmm.
to see how other teachers would be teaching another language online and how that would work out. And so that's why I started speaking Portuguese. I'm also very interested actually in potentially moving abroad to Portugal. And it's always better to learn the language first before you go there to make it a lot easier and, and a lot more able to connect with the local people. And so I figured, hey, I might as well do that. It's a win-win for me, so
Mm-hmm.
I did.
I'm glad you did because I wouldn't have been able to meet you if I
I
hadn't.
know.
And I know we had a question on the last call, the people that were interested in learning English. Well, we'll talk offline if you're interested in taking
Oh,
private people to learn. Okay, fine. All right, yeah, sorry guys.
yeah, I am interested. We'll talk about that later.
Okay, perfect. So during your experience, what are some of your tips that you felt like you used to help you grasp the language better?
Mm. There's a memorization technique I use that I learned from also teaching AVID to other teachers and using AVID strategies in the classroom. And basically, it comes down to some brain science
Hmm.
where you want to review something you just learned 7 minutes after you learn it. Then you want to review it again after 24 hours. Then you want to review it again uh, once a week, just once a week afterwards, and then a month after that, and then just review as you need.
Hmm.
By doing that, your retention rate keeps going up, up. So instead of forgetting everything, you keep reminding yourself, and then your brain will memorize it a lot more naturally.
It's interesting
So,
that you said that because you
yeah,
brought that up in our study session because
I did.
we break up. Of course, Inej teaches us, and then we break up into study sessions based on our time zone. So for those of us who are in the level 2 class, if you're part of the West Coast, you will be studying with Miki. Um, but you brought that up in our study session, and I was just terrible at going back at the increments that you said to know if it would work for me.
Uh-huh.
But
So,
how do we learn more about that? Like, how do you spell to research more of that process of learning?
look up AVID curve of learning, AVID, and then curve of learning, and you'll see the graph and you'll see all the other research and data behind that. And it can be difficult. So to help maintain those things, I did two things. The first thing was I would review the lesson the day before the next live lesson,
Mm-hmm.
because that would be like the first that would be like a week from the previous one.
Mm-hmm.
And then right after the first lesson, I either encouraged people to stay after and review with me, or
Mm-hmm.
I'd review on my own of what we just learned. So that would
Mm-hmm.
take care of the 7 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next day normally was actually the study group,
Mm-hmm.
where I tried to just quick review. It didn't have to be long, just like look at it.
Huh.
And then the study group would automatically help take care of anything in between with the week later or the month later. Um,
That's really
so re-
interesting how you set that up? Like, you're gonna have to tell me that offline. You strategically kind of decided, based on study groups and stuff, how to push this, and I need to know more about that.
Well, the main one to remember is to review what you just learned. So after Nesh's
Yeah.
class,
Okay.
either it's something we can all do together or we can
Okay.
do on our own,
Mhm.
where we just, because most people, right, they're like, okay, I'm done, time to wash dishes or go on to my
Right.
next task.
Right.
When really it should be, okay, I just got all this information. I'm going to stop and I'm going to look over my notes, see what I remember, and usually I just ask myself, like, what was interesting to me,
Mm.
what do I still have questions about? I wrote it down, both of those things,
Mhm.
right on the notes I just took. And honestly, that makes just such a big difference on its own.
Mhm. Mhm.
Hmm.
No, that's super helpful, Mickey. That's
Hmm.
really good. I'm gonna have to try that for this part too.
Yep. And
So.
then
Mhm.
the second strategy is the Memorize app. And so you can create courses together. And so I created a course based off of the practice sentences and the vocabulary that Inesh gave us every lesson. And so we took turns inputting what the words or grammar or sentences were. And then the Memorize app actually helps you take care of that timing too. It's just an app. It's almost like a game you play on your phone.
We used Kahoot.
Oh yeah, Kahoot's a lot of fun too.
Yeah, we made games of Kahoot.
Hmm.
And in our study group, we had various people in our class teach the class in a different way than Inej taught us. And we've
Uh-huh.
done that. And that's been super helpful as well. And then because, people are competitive by nature, so everyone wanted to up the next person and make sure that their class was just everything. So,
Nice. That's awesome.
and folks, again, what we're talking about is our language class. We have that coming up again. October 5th is a day to sign. We only have 20 spots available. So once those 20 spots are filled, we are done. And yeah, so if that happens before October 5th, we will definitely end it before then. So far, I just went live earlier today and we had about 4 people sign up. So I'll adjust the number once I get a little bit of time and let you know
Uh-huh.
how many spots are available. So can you talk a little bit more about the community? Because I think that was one of my favorite parts. And I didn't anticipate this. I think I just thought I was going to learn a language. But now when you're with someone for, people for 12 weeks, you end up developing this friendship and you wouldn't have been able to meet people without it. Talk about that a little
Hmm.
bit.
I have to say I'm amazed as a participant and as a teacher. One of the things that Inesh is so good at is helping build that kind of community just in that 1 hour. We're learning together, we're laughing together, we feel safe together, and we start developing all these different inside jokes because of what's happened in the class. Um, and I think Cinnamon, you've done an excellent job then too of coordinating the study groups to be in a way where everyone's invited, but it's also like, because of time differences, you
Yeah.
can connect with people on the same time with you.
Mm-hmm.
And normally when I've done language classes or, taken any language classes online, it almost kind of dies off because honestly, people get busy, right? People get busy. It's hard to study. It's hard to keep up with the vocabulary, and then you feel embarrassed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But because of the structure you've created and because of how well Inesh has set it up, where it's actually a really good thing to make mistakes because that's how you
Yeah.
learn.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
everyone feels safe with everyone to make those mistakes. And then, like, the retention, people stay in the class. Like, we were just doing study groups for the past, what, 3 months, 4 months.
Yeah, y'all were great at that. Once the summer
I
got
know.
real crazy and I wanted to go to a beach, I did fall off.
Right, right. So but even though we were on our own for that amount of time, we all stayed. Like, we're still doing study groups. And what's also really nice is because we all had this in common, we were able to use that to find out what else we had in common. And I can truly say that everyone in my study group is like one of my really good friends now. And even you, right, Cinnamon? Like, you and I keep talking on and off. Regardless of this, we'll just talk
Right.
about other things and just have fun.
Right.
And
Right.
so, yeah, I thought that was amazing. Like, I made more friends online during this
During a
pandemic
pandemic.
that I seriously thought I would feel really isolated, and I
Yeah.
honestly didn't. It
Yeah.
was really wonderful.
Yeah, and you brought up a really good point about safety, and I think, as
Yes.
adults trying to learn a language, I think why we struggle so much is because we're trying to make it perfect. You know what I'm saying? Like everything's about perfection, and so when you mess up and you do all these things, you're like, oh, I don't want to, and you get all this. But Inej does do a great job of making you feel safe about making these mistakes because it's inevitable, right? You're learning a whole new language,
Hmm.
you're doing a whole new skill. Of course, you're going to make some mistakes. And I do really appreciate how, that environment just helps with
Hmm.
that. So that's super important. I would recommend that for people who are learning, whether it be Portuguese or any other language. You got to just be okay with just making mistakes.
Hmm.
And in the world where it's just like you're supposed to be right at everything, sometimes that's a bit difficult. Because I found like when I would drink, like when I had like a couple glasses of wine,
Yes.
my Portuguese was fire.
I know. I remember I even told you, I was like, Cinnamon, you're just so nervous. You know what? Just like, I don't know, take a shot or something before class starts and you'll be fine. But seriously, you have to be able to find a way to adopt that kind of inhibition, I guess, because honestly, that's the only way you're going to learn a language is by speaking it and by making mistakes. And I feel like not only was it like Inesh's, you know, basic like I don't know, way of speaking, aura, like she welcomed mistakes. She loved mistakes.
Yeah.
She made it so we all loved mistakes because it was so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we said some really weird stuff, but then it sticks in our brains, right?
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
But on top of that, the way she designed her course,
Mhm.
like sometimes right after like 5 courses, you're like, I still don't know how to even start. It's
Mhm.
so nervous to start. Or you try to have a conversation with someone and you're like, I can't say anything.
Mhm.
She has designed her courses in a way where it's not your usual, let's learn all the animals, let's learn all the
Yes.
store stuff. She started off with things that we already knew or could
Mhm.
say very easily and were very practical, right?
Mhm.
É possível. It's very
Mhm.
possible, right?
Mhm.
É possível para mim. It's possible for
Mhm.
me.
Mhm.
And she kept building and
Mhm.
reviewing on that.
Mhm.
And it built up in a way that was I never felt overburdened or
Right.
overstressed. I
Right.
always felt like this is the perfect amount
Mhm.
for me to continue reviewing, continue building.
Mhm.
And even though I only took one class, I feel safe going to Portugal and I can figure out what to
Mhm.
say or what to do.
Mhm.
I can communicate.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I really, really appreciate that, both as, a participant, but also as a teacher who also teaches languages. It was very practical. It
Mhm.
built up in a nice way.
No, I agree with you. I think I've attempted to try to learn Portuguese in two separate situations. I had a language coach that didn't work out well at all. And then I had, a couple other teachers. But I think with Inez, it was the first time that I felt like, oh, I actually retained it. And again, this is English to Portuguese. So if English is your first language, she does a really good job of finding words in the English vocabulary that sounds
Hmm.
similar to a word in Portuguese so you can understand how your pronunciation is supposed to be. And that
Exactly.
was big because I feel like that's the biggest thing that I struggle
Hmm.
with the language is the pronunciation. And I think helping with that was worth its weight in gold. So yeah.
Hmm. It really was.
Well, Miki, I'm so happy that you got to chat with me and talk and let everybody know. Guys, again, if you are interested in taking the class, we only have 20 spots left, and the link will be in the description box, and you can sign up. And you'll start getting some fun emails from me in the group and to get you acclimated as to how everything works. So we start on October 5th. Just 20 spots left, or well, a little less than 20. So if you're interested in learning the language, and also if you want to develop a community. So for those of you who are moving to Portugal, the community is super important. You do not, we've talked about this even with me, it is kind of scary to be out here and not know anybody. You know what I mean? And this is a great way to make friends over the course of 12 weeks. So it's not like some stranger. You've gotten to know people over a period of time and develop a true relationship, the way friendship is supposed to evolve. You know what I mean? So if that is of interest to you, be sure to sign up and we would love to have you. So until next time.